I'm Richard.
And I'm Will.
And together we're
The Irreverent Nerds. Bum, bum, bum.
Nerds. Myazaki month continues with our review of Castle in the Sky. So, Will couldn't be here tonight. We've just had all kinds of scheduling conflicts, and we made some different decisions about what to cover this week. Actually, he and I collaborated last night on a bonus episode. We did a surprise review of the Marvels. We were planning to review the Marvels. We were talking about it, but we made the decision to go ahead and drop a bonus episode. That will be coming tomorrow, November 16th. But today, you're going to get just me because I'm trying to release on time, and we've had a hard time making our schedules work, so you're getting just me tonight. So it won't be quite as engaging or as funny, but I hope you'll still enjoy it and have a good time. We'll try to make it a little shorter this time around, maybe just long enough for you to enjoy on your morning commute. So, Castle in the Sky. Let's jump right into it. If you'd like to read along, I'm reading from the Wikipedia entry. Laputa, Castle in the Sky, in Japanese, Denko non Shira Rapuyuto, released as Castle in the Sky in North America, is a 1986 Japanese animated fantasy adventure film written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki. It was produced by Isao Takahata, animated by Studio Ghibli, and distributed by the Toei Company. In voice acting roles, the original Japanese version stars Mayumi Tanaka, Keiko Yokozawa, Kote Hasui, and Minori Terada, while the 2003 English dub stars James Van Der Beek, Anna Paquin, Cloris Leachman, and Mark Hamill. The film follows orphans Sheeta and Puza, who are chased by Muska, the army, and a group of pirates over Sheeta's crystal necklace. They discover that the crystal leads them to Laputa, a mythical castle flying in the sky, and join the pirates on their journey to reach the island before the military. Laputa turns out to harbor a dangerous weapon system which Sheeta and Puza destroy to halt Muska's destruction, causing Laputa to rise into space. This film was directed by Hayao Miyazaki. It was written by Hayao Miyazaki, produced by Isao Takahata. Cinematography, which I'm not sure exactly what that means in an animated film. Maybe it has to do with framing of shots and things like that, but it's attributed to Hirokata Takahashi. Music was done by Joe Hisaishi, who I believe does all of these Studio Ghibli films, if I'm not mistaken. It was released on August 2nd, 1986. It had a running time of 124 minutes. Originally released only in Japan, I think much later came to America. It had a budget of 500 million yen, or approximately $8 million in US money. It was the first film to be animated by Studio Ghibli, with a production team comprising many of Miyazaki's longtime collaborators, who would continue to work with the studio for the following 3 decades. The studio's intent was to create original feature films without any compromise of quality. The film was partly inspired by Miyazaki's trips to Wales, where he witnessed the aftermath of the 1984 coal miners' strike. The island of Laputa is used to highlight the theme of environmentalism, exploring the relationships between humanity, nature, and technology, a reflection of Miyazaki's ecological philosophy. The young protagonists also provide a unique perspective on the narrative as a result of Miyazaki's desire to portray the honesty and goodness of children in his work. That was a quote from Miyazaki. Many aspects of the film's retro-futuristic style, the flying machines in particular, are influenced by 19th century approaches, which has earned the film a reputation in the modern steampunk genre. The film released in Japanese theaters on August 2nd, 1986. It performed below expectations at the box office, but later achieved commercial success through re-releases, earning over $157 million in US money as of 2021. That's a pretty good return on an $8 million investment, I would say. An English dub commissioned by Tokuma Shoten in 1988 was distributed in North America by Streamline Pictures, and another dub was produced by Disney in 1998. This was released internationally by Buena Vista in 2003, and that is the version that I watched on HBO Max, or Max as it's now called. The film's score was composed by Joe Hisaishi, as I already mentioned, who would become a close collaborator of Miyazaki's. Hisaishi also composed a reworked soundtrack for the 2003 English dub. The film was generally acclaimed by critics, though the 2003 English dub received mixed reviews. It was well received by audiences, being voted as one of the greatest animated films of all time in later years. The film also received several notable accolades. Laputa has since earned cult status and has influenced several notable artists working in multiple media. So, let's jump into a summary of the plot. An airship carrying Sheeta, an orphan girl abducted by government agent Muska, is attacked by Dola and her gang, seeking Sheeta's crystal necklace. Attempting to escape, Sheeta falls from the airship but is saved by the magic of the now glowing crystal, which lowers her slowly. She is caught by Patsu, who takes her to his home. The next morning, Patsu shows Sheeta a picture his father took of Laputa, a mythical flying island. Determined to clear his father's name, Patsu vows to find Laputa. However, they are found and pursued by Dola's gang as well as the army and Muska. They are attacked and fall into a mine shaft, but are saved again by the crystal, which lowers them deep into the pit. In the tunnels, they meet Uncle Palm, who shows them deposits of the glowing mineral Itherium, the same material as Sheeta's crystal. Sheeta reveals to Patsu that she has a secret name tying her to Laputa, proving the myth is real, but the two are captured by the army and imprisoned in a fortress. Muska shows Sheeta a dead robot that fell from the sky, bearing the same insignia on Sheeta's crystal, and reveals she is the heiress to the Laputan throne. I said Laputan earlier. It's Laputan. Muska releases Patsu under the condition that Sheeta guides the army to Laputa. Patsu returns home but is captured by Dola's gang, who prepare to fly to the fortress, and take the crystal. Patsu joins them to attempt to save Sheeta. In the fortress, Sheeta recites an ancient phrase her mother taught her and inadvertently activates the magic of the crystal, reanimating the robot. The robot protects Sheeta from the army and destroys the fortress with its weapons, but is shot by the military airship Goliath. In the chaos, Patsu and Dola fly in and rescue Sheeta. However, Sheeta's crystal is left behind, and Muska decides to use it to navigate to Laputa. Sheeta and Patsu bargain with Dola to be taken aboard her airship and begin to work with the crew, having seen the crystal's directions. Sheeta helps Dola navigate to Laputa. In the middle of the night, Sheeta and Patsu keep watch from the crow's nest when Dola's warship is attacked by Goliath. Dola detaches the crow's nest, which also functions as a glider attached to the ship with a line. Patsu spots a massive cloud wherein he believes his father saw Laputa. Dola attempts to steer into the cloud but is halted by violent winds. Goliath destroys Dola's airship, severing the line connecting it to the glider. Sheeta and Patsu pass through the turbulent lightning storm. They land safely on Laputa, which they find deserted but for some fauna and one peaceful robot. The castle is in ruins, and a giant tree now grows out of the top of the island. However, the army arrives and begins looting the castle, having taken Dola's gang captive. Muska and his accomplices betray the army, prevent them from communicating with Earth, and capture Sheeta to take into the bottom of the castle. Patsu frees Dola's gang from their bindings and pursues Muska. The bottom of the castle is the epicenter of Laputa's ancient knowledge and weapons, which Muska activates using Sheeta's crystal, revealing to her that he is also descended from the Laputan royal line. Muska demonstrates Laputa's power by causing a massive explosion over the ocean, before destroying Goliath and its crew. Horrified, Sheeta takes back the crystal and flees. She gives the crystal to Patsu through a gap in the wall, but is cornered by a pursuing Muska in Laputa's throne room. Muska threatens her life for the crystal, but Patsu appears and bargains for a brief truce. Sheeta teaches Patsu another ancient phrase, the spell of destruction, which they recite, causing Laputa to begin to collapse. The light of the spell blinds Muska, who falls to his death, while Sheeta and Patsu are protected by the giant tree's roots. While Laputa's bottom falls out, the rest of the castle, along with Dola's glider, is preserved by the giant tree, and the island begins to rise into space. Sheeta, Patsu, and Dola's gang are able to escape and briefly reunite before flying away. We're going to take a short break. When I come back, we'll talk about my impressions of the film, as well as its themes and the aesthetics, the animation, the voice acting, and the like. All that and more right after this. Nerds, we would like to hear from you. Yes, you. You can send us a voice message if you go to our Spotify for Podcasters profile. You can get there by going to irreverentnerds.com. There is a message button. You can click on that. You can leave us a voice message. If you do that, we will include it in next week's episode. You can also follow us on social media. Our Instagram handle is at irreverent_nerds. We are on Facebook simply as The Irreverent Nerds. YouTube, The Irreverent Nerds, once again. And that's it. Those are only places where you can find us at the present, beyond, of course, your podcast app. So, if you find us in one of those spots, please feel free to let us know what you think of our episodes, whether you like them, dislike them, you're ambivalent, whatever you want to say, give us your 2 cents. Thank you, nerds. Now back to this week's episode. Hey nerds, I'm back. So, let's talk about Castle in the Sky. This, I think it's fair to say, and I agree with the sentiment that was expressed in the Wikipedia article, and this is one of the best animated films of all time. I think it's definitely in my top 10 films. It is now in my top 3 Myazaki films. I have to say, it has bumped out one of the others. So right now, as it stands, this film and then Nausicaa that we reviewed last week, as well as Princess Mononoke. Those are my top 3 at this point. I am going to revisit, well, Will and I are going to revisit Spirited Away to cap off Miyazaki month. So we'll see if this is just recency bias for me. But this is genuinely a beautiful, beautiful film. My first gut reaction is to give it at least 4.5. But honestly, I think I have to go higher. I'm going to say 4.75 nerd hats. This is close to perfect as a film. It just paced well. It has moments where it pauses and you get to be with the characters. Like, it's not just empty space, like they're character moments, but you also get to pause and enjoy nature and the music and the sound, the sights. The animation, as in all Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli films, is gorgeous. And flight is a major theme here, as it is in many of Miyazaki's other films. It certainly was true in Nausicaa. And you see Miyazaki's continuing, I guess, his struggle between, like, just he enjoys the beauty and the magic, if you will, of flight as humans have accomplished it. And you see kind of him repeatedly writing love letters to that accomplishment, the accomplishment of flight, and just how majestic that is. And the amazing fact that humans have accomplished it. I know this is a fanciful version of it. You know, we didn't have dirigible warships per se, not like this. This is definitely a sort of a hybrid in terms of periods of time or technological achievements. It's kind of interesting in that way. It reminds me honestly of Batman the Animated Series, which came after this. So if I had to guess, I would say that the animators who chose kind of the tonality might have been influenced to some extent by, perhaps even by this film, but maybe by Miyazaki in general, of capturing nostalgia, you know, of a particular era. In Batman the Animated Series case, it'd be, I think, around the 1940s, maybe a little earlier, 1920s, because you have blimps and things like that. You have old, like, 30s, 40s vehicles, but you also have updated computers and technology. So there's kind of this hybrid, neo-Gothic, perhaps you could call it. So Miyazaki kind of captures a bit of this, and apparently, according to the Wikipedia article, this is beloved by the steampunk fans, and I can see why. I have seen another film also had a voice done by Anna Paquin. She plays a boy, though, in that particular one. I cannot remember the name of it right now, and I don't think it was Ghibli, but it was definitely in the spirit of this film and probably inspired by it in some ways. It might have been a Ghibli film, but I don't think so. But I think definitely influenced by Miyazaki. That much is obvious because it came much later than this film. And I can see, I just can't think of the title right now, but I can see the jacket cover and everything. I'm remembering the film, but I cannot remember the title of it. But anyway, so obviously gorgeously animated film. The music, it's distinctive because Hisashi, he does the music for all Ghibli films and all of Miyazaki's feature works, as I understand it. I'm not sure if he was involved with Lupin, but definitely after that, the beginning with Nausicaa for sure, like he did. I believe he was probably, if he hasn't already passed away, he's probably done the music for Miyazaki's upcoming film, The Boy and the Heron. I'll have to double check that. But if he's still alive and composing, I would suspect they had him do it once again. So, like I said, 4.75 nerd hats. This is a near perfect film. I think I've yet to give a 5. I think this got the same rating for me as Avatar Way of Water. And for me, in particular, a big part of that is because of the message. Not just because of the message, but also the skill with which it is told. It is weaved into the story itself. It is preachy, but it in a way that Miyazaki, it's very artistically done, and it's very organic to the story itself. It doesn't. It is preachy in a sense, but it doesn't necessarily feel like it's beating you over the head with the message. But then part of that may be because I agree with the message. We have certainly done, as humans, a lot of damage, both not only to each other, but also to our ecosystems with our warfare, modern warfare in particular. And it's no mistake that when Muska gains power, when he gains access to the control room of Laputa and is able to fire, basically, it's like a Death Star gun, this massive ray, fire from the sky, if you will, this ancient technology. He fires it down at the ocean, and when it explodes, it's definitely not a mistake that it looks a lot like a nuclear, well, I should say an atom bomb, more specifically. 2 of which, obviously, were dropped on Miyazaki's own country. I believe he was born either right before or right after that occurred, if I'm not mistaken. So he grew up in the aftermath of that, and I can only imagine what impact those 2 explosions, killed hundreds of thousands of people, many of which died years afterwards of radiation poisoning and the like, and the lingering effects of those 2 bombs that my country, that the United States of America, dropped on Japan. Not that Japan was innocent necessarily. The people that the bombs were dropped on, many of them were, sadly, but as a country, Japan, with the industry of war, had done a tremendous amount of damage and taken a lot of lives in their efforts to conquer and to join with others who also had ambitions of conquering and building empires. But honestly, the victors in that war, we Americans, we're honestly not much better. We really aren't. So it's, apologies there, had an entry by my family. So talking about American industrialization, American imperialism, we're not really any better. We're not much, if at all, honestly. Certainly we have done our ambition, to gain wealth and territory and power, as is done a lot of damage in the years since World War II, not to mention before that. So we're not some paragons of virtue who came in and saved the world. We've done a lot of damage in the few brief centuries that we've existed. We've done good too, don't get me wrong. We're also one of the most generous countries in the world, but our imperialism and our desire for wealth, and I'm not absolving myself, as a consumer, as a citizen, I've contributed to that, either knowingly or unknowingly. And so I'm not innocent in that either. And Miyazaki is one of the things I like about this film and Nausicaa and Princess Mononoke. He doesn't shy away with addressing these difficult issues. And I think the fanciful setting gives him, much like science fiction, and there is certainly science fiction elements in this film, but it allows, I think, it gives you, like, as a writer, as a creator, it gives you enough distance from your own culture to be able to critique it, if you will, rather than doing like a straight biography or a straight historical setting of your own country. It gives you enough distance that you can reflect on some difficult issues. One of the things I love about this film, when they finally get to Laputa, Patsu and Sheeta are the first to land, and they discover that essentially nature has taken over this floating island in the sky, that the humans had either long since died off or abandoned it. And, a few robots that have been programmed to protect different areas of the city, had done so until they ceased functioning. And there's one remaining robot who's essentially like protecting the animals and living peaceably with them, and essentially guarding the grave of the city, if you will, in a sense. And Patsu and Sheeta, Patsu is just full of bravery and courage. Same thing, I guess. Is full of courage and obviously an attraction to Sheeta, I think, desire to help her and to continue on that adventure as well, not to mention a desire to vindicate his father who claimed he had been to Laputa and come back, but wasn't necessarily believed by others, but had accounts and made drawings, and his son wants to carry that on and wants to confirm that his father actually went there. So he's motivated by that in a large part as well. Sheeta, like early on, so I guess we'll get into characters a bit here. Sheeta knows that she is of, not necessarily royal blood, but she knows that she is descended from citizens of Laputa. Later in the film, spoiler warning by the way, and this film has been out a long time, so if you're listening to this, you've either decided not to watch it first or you've already seen it. So I don't feel bad spoiling anything for you at this point. I'll leave that to your discretion. Anyway, Sheeta finds out that she is not only a descendant of Laputans, but is actually an heir to the throne, of royal blood. So we find that out probably about halfway through the film, roughly. But there's a bigger reveal, and honestly, I didn't really see clear clues. There's clues dropped along the way, but nothing concrete. Like, you find more about Muska's motivations as time goes on. Some of them are a little vague and mysterious, and then eventually you find out that he too, and this is towards the end of the film, he too is a descendant. He reveals this to Sheeta as the two of them are alone in the control room where the massive Ethereum crystal is still powering the city. Who knows how many... He claims it's been 700 years since the city was abandoned by humans, so it's been continuing to power the city for 700 years, even though no humans are there to monitor it and to maintain it. So he is amazed at that, definitely in awe of the power, but he is certainly power hungry. He wants to be the king of Laputa, to retake the throne, and presumably to use its power to conquer the world, essentially, and to to be king of the planet in a sense. It's never mentioned which planet that is. It's reminiscent of Earth, but it's not really necessary to know whether it. Obviously, it's not normal Earth. It's a fictional version, and a very enjoyable one at that. It's an enjoyable world to live in. That's something Myazaki and his team are very good at. They're good at world building. Loved the way they did that with Nausicaa. Princess Mononoke doesn't necessarily spend as much time on that, but it does a good job of that as well. But Nausicaa and then this film, Capsule in the Sky, definitely do a good job of fleshing out the environment. And speaking of the environment, obviously, themes of ecology, in particular, just care for the planet, the importance of living in harmony with the planet, are most notably embodied in Sheeta, but then in some sense also by the city itself, as it is, and it's been taken over by a massive, like, world tree almost. It's just a massive tree that has taken over the city, and its roots go all the way down, even into the control room itself, which Muska, indicative of his lack of concern for nature and living things in general, is very frustrated and disgusted by the fact that roots have gotten into the center of the city, into the technological areas, the power room, if you will, and he vows to burn them all down. But I love, like, there is I guess in a sense, the final confrontation between Sheeta and Muska. They get to the throne room, and he's threatening to kill her if she doesn't give him the stone. She's given it to Patsu, which he doesn't necessarily know at this point. But she doesn't back down. She stares him down, and she says some very courageous things while he, like, shoots off both of her pigtails. He's like, your ears are next. He's just playing with her. Very good shot with a revolver, by the way, side note. But very courageously stands her ground, and she says to him, quote, "A king without compassion does not deserve a kingdom," unquote. And then she shares the lyrics of a song that she learned in her village growing up. Its lyrics are as follows: "Take root in the ground, live in harmony with the wind. Plant your seeds in the winter and rejoice with the birds in the coming of spring." She further says, basically to him, like, you can get all your technology that you want, but the world cannot live without love. So two things: compassion, love. Well, three things, I guess. Compassion, love, and harmony with nature are three of the big themes here that Myazaki promotes. And the counterpoint to those are greed, whether it's greed for material wealth or greed for power. As in Muska's case, he didn't give a shit about any of the gold or jewels. To him, the real power was the technology itself. And he's right about that, just in terms of being able to conquer the planet. I mean, the money can go a long way, but if you also have the power and the weapons to back it up, so to speak, that can go further, than money itself. But then you have others, such as the soldiers who come along with him from the Earth's military, and to a lesser extent, the pirates, although you find that they have compassion for Sheeta and Puza. Yeah, you Puts? No, Patsu and Sheeta. But they still want their money. They still want their treasure, and they find a way to get some treasure at the end, and it's kind of laughed off. I'm like, they're a little bit greedy too, but not to the extent of the military. For them, it's more about survival. They're finding a way to survive. Unfortunately, they've chosen piracy, but they're kind of viewed as like the noble pirates to an extent. Reminds me of some things from Pirates of the Caribbean, where Jack, he is a pirate, and he is, generally selfish, but at times chooses to do noble things. So it's kind of, these pirates are similar to that. Sky pirates in this case. And they're kind of fun. At the beginning, they're quite formidable, as enemies of Patsu and Sheeta, in an effort to get the stone from Sheeta. But in the end, they end up becoming allies to Patsu and Sheeta. And this, I guess for their compassion, they are in a sense rewarded both with their lives. They escape with their lives, but also with enough treasure to rebuild what they lost in helping Sheeta and Patsu. So I like that, like the heroes aren't necessarily perfect by any means. Sheeta and Patsu are probably the purest of heart. Patsu is just like pure bravery and compassion in a sense. And Sheeta, similar, her empathy is quite powerful and meaningful, and it's on display in this film. And I think Muska is certainly, and I think this has been remarked on other places, he's definitely the closest to a pure villain that I think Miyazaki has done. In like many of his films, Princess Mononoke being an example, the quote-unquote villain is there's more nuance behind it. It's not just a pure power grab. She shows compassion for her people, the desire to protect them. But Muska, no, he's all ego and power hungry, has no concern for the people that are helping him, even his closest assistants, not to mention any other living things. So he's pretty much pure evil, from Miyazaki's perspective. And he, I think it's rather fitting that they made a good choice with the voice actor. They chose Mark Hamill, cast him in the role of Muska, and you definitely hear him channeling some Joker laughs in there from time to time. Those evil Joker laughs, a little more grounded than not as maniacal necessarily, but certainly evil. There's a few I was like, oh, there's the Joker. But yeah, Mark Hamill does an excellent job, and Anna Paquin and James Vanderbeek, Beak, I would not have recognized his voice. I would not have known, because he was, I think, might have still been a teenager at that point. This was around Dawson's Creek time for him, so he's a teenager, but he managed to make his voice sound younger, like age 12, 13. Anna Paquin, similarly, I think she would have been in her late teens or early 20s when this was recorded. But yeah, they both did an excellent job as well, as did Cloris Leachman, and then of course some of the voice acting all-stars like Jim Cummings and Corey Burton and Debbie Berry and the like, who have lended their vocal talents to so many different animated projects over the years. So it was cool to see them getting work on something as meaningful, and I'm sure they enjoyed it as well, doing something as meaningful and as beautiful as a Hayao Miyazaki film. So, Castle in the Sky, I highly recommend it. I want to thank Will for choosing this. If I can, I'm going to get him to do his own review and reflection on it, and we can put that as another bonus episode in there, or maybe include it in next week's. We'll figure out something with that, because this was one of his choices. But Will, if you're listening, thank you for selecting this. I thoroughly enjoyed the film. This is definitely bumped into my top 3 now, Miyazaki. We'll see whether Spirited Away can dethrone one of these 3 next week. Nausicaa, Castle in the Sky, and Princess Mononoke. I've already seen Spirited Away, and as much as I enjoyed it, I don't know that it will. But it's definitely in my top 5 of the Miyazaki films I've seen. And as of yet, to date, I have yet to see a Miyazaki film that I have not appreciated and enjoyed to date. Haven't seen Boy and the Heron yet. We'll see that next month when it comes out, and that'll be, I think, officially the final episode of season 4. And I was just doing a count today. That's going to put us at episode 99. I've just, as of today, I just made available once again, and for the first time in some cases, all of the bonus episodes that previously, at least over the last few months, have been available to subscribers only. Those that were previously available are available again, as well as those that had only been available to subscribers for the past few months, including a bonus episode coming out tomorrow, the Marvels review, which Will and I are both contributed to. All of those are now available. We have made the decision to do away with the subscription service. Honestly, we didn't have a lot of traction with that, not a lot of subscribers, and even those that did subscribe didn't really, they seem more interested in just supporting us, not so much in listening to the bonus episodes. So we've made the decision just to make it all available for free. If we do continue this podcast, we'll probably get a Patreon up and running at some point, and once we qualify again, we may get listener support up and running again if we continue with the podcast. We haven't yet decided, but finishing with Boy in the Heron, that'll get us up to episode 99, so we'll probably, I want to get to 100. 100 is a nice, clean number, especially if we choose to end the podcast. So we'll probably do a final 100th episode extravaganza of some type. We got to figure out what we want to do with that. We'll probably have some guests and try to get that released before the end of the year. Maybe it'll be a end of 2023 bash, 100th episode. We'll figure something out. And so we've got a decision to make. Do we want to continue on with this podcast, or do we want to start something new? Either way, this will not be the last you hear from Will and I in the podcast land. At least that's our plan. Our plan is to continue producing podcasts, perhaps more than one, but we haven't decided yet. But you'll still hear us doing some movie reviews, either as the Irreverent Nerds, just at the lower frequency per month, or a new title. We've been batting some ideas around. One, and we'll see what you guys think. Honestly, let us know what you think. If we do decide to go the new route, one idea we have is two nerds in a movie. It's kind of simple, straightforward, tells you what it's about. We review movies, and we're nerds. But we've got some other ideas that we're batting around, so we haven't nailed it down yet. But yeah, I do want to get to 100 episodes. I would love to do that. So we'll probably do a final 100th episode bash towards the end of the year. And I'm going to try to bring some guests on, former guests that we've had on the podcast, bring them on, even if it's just with a voice message or things contributing to the 100th episode. I think that'd be great. So with that, nerds, next week, look for Spirited Away. And then, of course, releasing tomorrow, which is, right now is only, I'm getting this done a little later than I'd like to. It's still going to release on November 15th as scheduled, just a little later in the day than I originally planned. And then tomorrow you will see, beginning at midnight, technically, the bonus episode review of the Marvels. So check that out. And then, again, coming next week, we finish off Myazaki month with Spirited Away. So until next time, nerds, sayonara. Live long and prosper. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Irreverent Nerds podcast. If you would, consider following us on Instagram. We are there at irreverent_nerds. You can also hit us up on Facebook. Just look us up there at the Irreverent Nerds. That's our fan page. We have a YouTube channel as well. Once again, the Irreverent Nerds. Nice and simple, right? And if you go to www.irreverentnerds.com, that will send you to our Podcasters for Spotify, formerly Anchor.fm profile, where you can send us a voice message if you want to, support us financially, or listen to the podcast. It will also direct you to other places you can listen, like Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, you name it. So, like, comment, subscribe, follow, all those good things, wherever you find us, wherever you listen to us, we would greatly appreciate it. Until next time, nerds, live long and prosper. Avengers assemble! I'm Batman.